here I'm going to do a little video on a couple things you can do to practice at home for the motorcycle DMV range test. As far as the written test is concerned, it's pretty easy. You're going to read all the material. They have some PowerPoint videos. Just going to sit there and watch that. The test is pretty straightforward, mostly common sense stuff. A couple things to remember on the written test is the abbreviations, like find C and things like that. Those are a little tricky to remember, but if you can remember that, you'll almost get 100. I got a 96 on my written test. The range is a little bit more difficult, a lot more stuff going on. It's supposed to be a beginner class, but they move very quickly. So if you can practice at home on a dirt bike or a friend's motorcycle, it's going to help you a lot and just going to make it much easier, less stressful when you're on the range. I took the range test when it was raining and I was feeling horribly sick, but I did pass. Some people did get let go. 2 girls just couldn't control the bike. They were told to leave. I think they're going to get more practice hopefully and come back. And one guy made it past the first day, and the second day the instructor just said he wasn't maintaining his balance and he dropped the bike. So he was told to take the first class over again. So a couple things you can practice at home, so that's not you. First, I'll quickly go over some of the things you're going to need. You're going to need some high-top boots here over the ankle. These are steel toe. I don't think they have to be steel toe. I saw a couple people with just regular shoes like this. They didn't really say much, but if you get these, depending on your instructor, they might be kind of picky about that. My 2 instructors didn't seem to really care too much. But if you go in tennis shoes, they're probably going to say something. Gloves. I've got some gloves here. You could do leather gloves. I'm doing more motorcycle gloves, a little bit nicer air, kind of let them breathe. They don't really care. It doesn't have to be leather. So as far as a helmet's concerned, this is a kind of dirt bike style helmet. For taking the test, it's actually better to have a motorcycle style, the one with the visor. And actually just bought one on Amazon and returned it after the class. That the visor that will clip up. Reason being, if you have one of these, you have to have eye protection constantly. So you can't take this off when he's talking to you. Versus the visor flip up style, you can kind of flip it up. For the most of the riding, I left it flipped up, and he didn't seem to care. Just easier to see, and it gets a little hot, when you're sitting on the bikes for like 5 hours. So I would recommend not getting this style for the test. I had another girl in the class who did use a style, and it kept fogging up the goggles, and she kept taking it off. It was kind of a pain in the butt. So if you want to buy one, you get one on Amazon for like $60 with a flip-up style, and then if you don't like it, just return it after that. I have 2 sets of goggles here, tinted and see-through. You could put a pair of sunglasses on here. I think that'd be fine too. In the sun, you're definitely going to want tinted or a pair of sunglasses. If it's rainy, see-through would be better. So the bikes, you get a bunch of different options as far as picking out the bike. You want to get there a little bit early, maybe 15 minutes early. Pick out a bike that you like. I like the Enduro style. This isn't exactly the bike they had. They had a couple Yamahas that were really nice. If you can get there early, make sure you get the bike you like. If that's not your kind of Harley Davidson style bike, then grab one of those bikes. There is a good amount of options as far as bikes concerned. Get one you're familiar with. So if you're practicing Enduro style, then grab an Enduro for the test. If you're more comfortable practicing a different style, try to grab one closest resembling the style you're going to practice on. You don't have to practice, but I would recommend it. It's going to make it much easier on the test. Again, don't practice on the road, just practice in a parking lot, friend's house or something. So what I'm going to do is go over some of the things that they're going to basically tell you in the class, but because they move kind of fast, sometimes it's easier to practice at home yourself. A couple of things. So they're going to have you get on the bike at first. Just do a couple of, basically whenever you get on the bike, you want to put your 4 fingers here, and then put your foot over, and you get settled on the bike. You're going to center the bike here, taking the kickstand up, And this is kind of resting position. This is where they pretty much have you most of the time. The bikes look a little bit different than this, but pretty much the controls the same. You get your front brake, throttle acceleration, starter, kill switch, ignition on and off. This is an off position right now. They always want to leave an off position. If you leave an on position all the time, they get kind of bitchy and yell at you. So when you're done using the bike, hit the off switch and then always turn this off. This will turn the lights off at the same time, and they know you have the bike on if the lights are on, and they yell at you and stuff. Here are the lights here. High beam, low beam, left, right. You do a little bit with that in the testing. You have your horn. And here we have the clutch, and we have the gear shifter here, and we down, 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 and then up, 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 up. Then here we have the rear brake, and they're going to basically go through that stuff with you, gas cap, all that stuff. They want you to be familiar with how to turn the fuel line off, which is a little bit different in every bike, so you're going to have to find it, usually under here somewhere. And basically they have you turn that. So this is basic stuff, choke, you know. When you're picking a bike and if you notice right away it's just really bogging down or it stalls a lot on you, ask for a different bike. Don't deal with it. I mean, it's not worth making yourself look bad when it's really the bike's fault. They don't have a problem with you switching bikes. And then the next day, the second day, try to remember the bike you're on, either the number or something on the bike so you can get that same bike. They don't care if you get the same bike the next day. Call that bike, put your helmet near it, and use that same bike the next day, because if you get a shitty bike, it just makes you look like a shitty rider, and most of the time that's not the case. Sometimes it's the case, but not all the time. All right, so a couple of things they have you do is there's one thing that's probably the hardest thing. Is called the box, and it's figure eight, and it's a pretty tight figure eight they make you do, and a lot of people were dropping bikes, they were getting all confused. What I noticed the best is try not to be the first in line, and if you're not, try to follow what the next guy's doing, as long as he's doing it right. And yeah, so I'm gonna take you through some of the things here now, and we'll practice some of the things that they have in the test. All right, I'm doing this off memory, but I'm gonna try to remember as many of the things on the test or the practice that we did. We did a crap load of stuff, but I'll try to take it from the beginning. The first thing you're gonna do is kind of like a duck walk. You're gonna be riding throttle. This is a good thing to practice. Very beginners, great thing to practice. So you're going to get on the bike. Again, always hold the brake first. Put your knee over the bike. Kick the kickstand up. You're going to wait until they tell you. Turn your on switch on here. Hold in the clutch. And you're going to basically start it. And after we're going to start it, we're just going to let the clutch out slowly and slowly walk with the bike. What we do is you're going to walk to the end. There's a cone at the beginning, cone at the end. You're going to walk to the end. Then basically you want to turn around as quickly as you can safely. They say if you can put it into neutral, put it into neutral. It's very hard to find neutral. Basically getting into neutral is never a part of the test, so don't worry about it. They get mad if you take too long, so you're better off just turning the engine off, holding your clutch in, walking it. Never get off the bike when other people are on, kind of riding and stuff. They always want you to stay on. If you ever get off, they're going to yell at you. So you stay on the bike and you basically walk it like this. It's kind of heavy, so it's a little bit hard, but you walk it, you turn around, you're going to turn around. I'm going to show you what to do right now. So let's turn around. All right, what you're basically going to walk the bike. See, I let the clutch out slowly. You see walking the bike to the end here. And let's say this is the other cone. It's going to be much further, but basically you could get into neutral if you can find it. It's sometimes hard on the bikes, even this one it is. You're going to turn the engine off. What you're going to do is you're going to walk it around. Again, don't get off the bike. It's much easier to move it when you're off the bike, but then they yell at you. So get familiar with kind of moving the bike around. It's hard if it's a tall bike. So we're going to turn it around. Then they want you to get it back into running position as quickly as possible and be ready when they say go. So basically there's a cone on the side. You want to go to that same cone, get it back and running. They're going to say, okay, you guys go with back to your cone again. Again, we're walking it, just kind of riding the clutch. Don't like over the throttle, just walk it. The other side here. Now the next thing they have you do, if you get to your cone, let's say this is your cone, turn it around again. It's fine not to find neutral. Don't spend too much time finding neutral, because then they bitch at you. Get to this side. Now the next part is actually, they say once you feel comfortable, instead of walking, or start walking, actually put your feet up onto that peg. It's going to be the ball of your feet, front ball right here, is where you want your feet. So let's do that this time. Start off walking, put your legs up, and again slowly, always in first gear, this is the first time. Get to the end, pull your clutch in, put your brake on, and then stop. And then you get back into position. So this is the first couple runs. You're going to do this kind of stupid stuff here. But this is good practice you can do at home. So that's kind of one of the first lessons you're going to do. So get that under your belt. Practice that at home if you can. Let's see if I can think of some other practices. They always want you to use both brakes pretty much all the time. There are very rare cases that you're only going to use your back brake, you only use your front brake. Most of the time, they're going to want you to use both brakes. Never brake while you're turning, always brake before the turn. So let's say if I want to go around this roundabout, I want to accelerate, look where I'm going to go. That's another thing they ask you a lot to do, is look where you're going to go, not where you're going. Normally you're just looking for kind of where you're going, right in front there. So if you're going to make a turn, let's say there's a rock or the cliff, something, you actually want to look to your right, even though now you can't see what's right in front of you. So that's something they look for on the test, and that's something that they will mark you off for if you don't look where you're going. They also say it helps you do some of these maneuvers. Let's do a kind of drive down and then take a turn. They have these cones set up. You have to stay within the cone zone. But let's do that. I know that's something that is on the test, the final test. So go down here, take a right, and so go down here, good speed, put my feet on the brake, and slow turn, never brake during the turn, always keep a steady acceleration, steady speed before it accelerates slightly. Here's something that they do, and it's tricky for some people, not so much for me. They make you stay in a straight line and stay in first gear. And while you're doing this, it's called you ride in the friction zone, use your front brake and your back brake. And you have to stay in the line, you can't put your feet down, and you try to ride as slow as possible. It's going to help you with this. It's not, again, this isn't on the final test, this is during the practice. But it's something that if you can ride slowly in first gear, it's going to help you on the final test. Basically, let me show you here what we're going to do. We're going to go right down there, stay in a straight line, and we'll put my foot on the back brake and the front brake, and have my clutch slightly in, just so I don't lose balance. I'm going to let it in and out, kind of play around with it. You'll see what I'm doing right here. So I'm going to straighten out. I got my finger in the front, and I'm going to go as slow as I can in a straight line. It's okay to move a little bit if you're going, but basically you want to be very slow, straight as possible. You know, use your brake, let them know you, and then you come out of the turn. They're going to have you do clutching up from first to second, and then brake in a short amount of distance. So that's something you want to practice. Again, when you brake, and especially if it's a straight line, you use both your back and your front brakes together. This exercise, basically we're going to go up, go to first, go to second, and then at a set point, let's say that rock right there, I'm going to stop as quickly as possible. And I need down clutch. They want you to do this all in one motion, which is very hard to do because you're doing something with this foot, you're doing something with this hand, and you're doing something with this hand, and you're doing something with this foot here. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's very hard for people to do. Something great you can practice at home. This is on the final test. It's one of the test kind of exam things they do. So basically, again, go up from first gear to second gear, maintain a good speed. I would recommend trying to stay in the slower second gear. It's just a little bit easier to stop. And they take measurements and they do all this math and figure out your grade. So let's do it. So we turn it on. Second, and stop. Boom. And, you know, that was pretty good. We keep practicing that, everything very quickly. You're stopping, you're downshifting. They make you do that a couple times before the practice. That is on the final. Here's another thing that's on the final. I'm going to go through the final test stuff because that's sure what you really care about. Everything else you could pretty much suck at as long as you pass that final test. That's all I cared about anyway. So, alright, so the next thing on the final, basically you're going to go down and you're going to take a left or right. And there's a guy, and you pay very good attention to what he says, because he's going to say, okay, go right, or go left, or go right. And if you go left, and he told you go right, then you get marks off there. So basically, you're going to go down, get a good speed, take a turn, and then you quickly swerve. This is on the test, and something good you can practice. This is in second gear. Maintain a good speed, quickly swerve to the right or left. There's going to be cone set up, and he's going to say swerve to the right. And if you swerve to the left, you basically get points off. They work it on a 20-point system, so if you get more than 20 points off, then you basically lose, or you have to take the test over, the whole class over again. Everyone passed that made it to the final, so you have, even the guy that dumped his bike, he passed, so you should be able to pass, but this will make you feel more confident. All right. Slow down right before, take a turn, speed up, and quickly swerve to the right. All right, I'll come back later for you. All right, so I'm going to go over probably one of the hardest tests. It's on the final, and they also make you do it second day, I believe. It's called the box test. Basically, it's you going down. They have a box drawn out. You have to do a figure eight. I don't know why they don't call it a figure eight test. It'd be much more simpler to kind of comprehend in your mind, I think. But everyone was messing this thing up. It was pretty difficult. And so here's what it is. You go down. Say the flower box is a part of the outside box, and just imagine another box here. You basically go into the box, you turn around, you do a figure eight, and then you come back out the box. The first time they widen the box, and so it's not as difficult to do it. People are still dumping the bikes. What happens is, I think you need to look where you're going to go. And a lot of people just look in front of them and they get nervous and, oh my God, the line's there, and then they were too close, and now they're making a sharp turn and they dump the bike, or they got to put their feet down. Here's one advice. After we do this test, and you see it and you're like, wow, this is really difficult. They grade it two different ways. This was helpful when the teacher said. Either put your feet down and walk around the whole thing inside the box, or keep your feet up and make the widest freaking circles you ever want to make. But you only lose points on two things. Either putting your foot down or going outside the box. So as long as you don't do both, you're not going to freaking fail that part. And even if you do fail that part, which I did see some people put their feet down and they went outside the box, they still passed the final test because it's graded in multiple things. But this is one of the harder things. So if you can practice this, it's going to make you a lot better. It's basically going in first gear the entire time. You're going to go straight down. You go entering the box now, taking a right, or sorry, a left, looping around, making a figure eight, looping around again, and going straight out the box. It's one figure eight you're doing. It's a little confused, and then you do some other stuff after that, just turns and staying in the circle, things like that. So let's do the figure 8 right now. First, you'll see what I mean. Let's go as slow as you can, entering the box. Get stable on it. Both my feet are up. Now I'm entering this imaginary box that I don't have drawn out. I don't have the width drawn out. Let's just pretend it's around the basketball court. So I'm making a turn. This is my first figure 8. I want to go out as far on the outside of the box, kind of look where I'm going to go, and then go in here. Okay, boom. Now I exit the box. And that's about it. It's a lot of these sharp turns at very low gear, playing around with your friction zone on the clutch, giving it just a little bit of gas, getting stable on the bike. You can also move your ass or hips by keeping your body straight, but the bike tilted a little bit. Some people said that helped. I didn't do that, but other people did, and maybe it looked a little bit easier for them to do that figure 8. So practice that. That's probably the hardest thing that is on the final test. Really, at all on the whole thing. It's going slow, and because you really have to have good balance. And a lot of people don't, and just aren't comfortable with it and familiar with it, especially for beginner classes. It's pretty hard to do. So give that a try. And I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send me questions on YouTube, and I'll be happy to answer them if I can. All right, good luck.